So this is not a video that I had planned. Uh, it's basically, I was sitting in my, where I listen to records chair, and I was looking over at those CDs, which recently I have started organizing. And what I've done is it's just the first few shelves is really just my all-time favorites. And when I was doing that, I realized that I was starting with Uncle Tupelo. So up there, Uncle Tupelo, Wilco, Sunbolt, so that's all the same folks, mostly. Springsteen and Dylan, that's it. And I realized that Uncle Tupelo, I thought of them first, and it led me to thinking about the album Still Feel Gone, which is Uncle Tupelo's second record. Came out in 1991. First record is No Depression in 1990. Third, of course, March 16th, 20th, 1992 in 92. And then their only major label record, Anodyne, in 93, and then they broke up. But I was thinking of this CD. This is the actual CD that I bought in the summer of, I think, 95. Look at us, it's scratched. I don't know if you can see that. But this thing has been through a lot, and it still plays. So this CD, I've told the story about how I discovered Uncle Tupelo so many times that I'm not going to do it again. I'll give you the Cliff's Notes here. I was up at college in Boston. A friend of a friend was in town visiting from Maine. He asked me if I wanted his extra ticket to see a band at the Paradise in Boston. I passed because we were seeing somebody on campus. I think it was Big Head Todd and the Monsters, I think. And I remember we stayed for like one or two songs and left. This gentleman, the next day, we all got together. What we did, like the mornings after or afternoons after. I think it was not maybe a weekend or a Friday or something, so we were probably getting ready to party again. And I remember I asked this friend of a friend who was in from Maine how the show was, and he said, "Man, they were great." And he asked if he could play a song, and he went outside to his car. I am retelling the story, but just not with all the dramatic inflection. And he brought in Uncle Tupelo's Anodyne and played the song New Madrid. My buddy Brian and I mentioned Brian a lot. He and I drove to Tower Records that day and bought Anodyne and looked for all the Uncle Tupelo records, but that was the only one they had. And it's funny that this came up because I was texting with Brian yesterday, for the first time in a while. We were both talking about how we've started to listen to CDs a lot lately because of the sound, the convenience. You can hear the whole album. I've always been more of an album person than a mix playlist. No, it's probably equal, but depends on my mood. I love listening to albums all the way through, especially older albums, concept albums, if you want to call them that. An album like Blood on the Tracks, you got to listen to the whole thing. Pink Moon, got to listen to the whole thing. But back to my original story. So how Still Feel Gone changed my life. 4 minutes in, I'm just getting to it. After hearing Uncle Tupelo, so that was early 94. I then went home to New Jersey the summer of 1994, and I went to my local record store in New Jersey called Ramsey Books and Records. Any of my high school friends, if you watch this, you will remember that place. We were there all the time. It was in a big outdoor sort of like mall area. Another like stationery stores, maybe a grocery store. That's where I got my hair cut back then. And I ordered all three of the Uncle Tupelo records: No Depression, Still Feel Gone, and March 16th to 20th. And I had to wait for them. I had to wait weeks for them. And I remember I would at the time remember I was reaching out to my brother Lane, and I was saying, man, wait until you discover these guys. And one thing I forgot to share is, up until this point, my music taste was pretty traditional classic rock. That's what we grew up on in New Jersey. In high school, I got into early hip hop, which I've mentioned many, many times here. So I was listening to Public Enemy and Big Daddy Kane and Eric B. and Rakim. And then came Uncle Tupelo. And I would say that all of this, everything back there, my career, which I will speak to in a minute, can all be traced back to when I first heard Still Feel Gone, and my interest in music just went off the charts. So, as I mentioned, I ordered the 3 records. I remember I had heard someone talk about Still Feel Gone, so I wanted to hear that one first. I remember I was driving a Mazda 626. It was my stepmom's car that she handed down to me. And I got in the car after picking up these CDs, and I remember I used to drive a lot back then. It's a very New Jersey thing. Drive around, meet friends, go to work. We'd go to Tower Records, then we'd, I don't know, meet food. Then I'd park my car so I didn't have to drive, and we'd all go out for drinks. I was a heavy smoker back then, so I used to smoke in my car so that my mom and stepfather didn't know that I smoked. I have a feeling they did. So I'd drive around a lot, and it was those years, right? I was like early 20s, still way too early in trying to figure out who I am. And but I remember getting in the car and putting in Still Feel Gone first. And I remember hearing the opening guitar of Gun. A chill still goes up and down my spine. And then Looking for a Way Out, D. Boone, If That's All Right, Discarded. And I remember driving, and I remember thinking, I've never heard anything like this. It's country, it's punk, it's rock and roll, maybe some blues. I don't know. Like, who is this band? I had heard their last record, Anodyne, which is mostly like an Americana country-ish record, but this sounded like almost a completely different band. And of course, that album led me to the Jayhawks, led me to the Replacements, to Big Star, the Minutemen, Iggy Pop and the Stooges, soul, R&B, Sam Cooke. It just opened up a world to me that I didn't know existed. I was listening to Neil Young and Springsteen and Dylan, and I was perfectly happy with those artists, and I still listen to all those folks now. But this just something about what they were talking about, which was like hometown, same town blues, same old walls closing in. You know, town that I grew up in was like middle to upper class. We were definitely on the middle side, if not middle to lower-ish. And I just, my stepfather, who played a large part in raising me, was a police officer. And it's just the themes of these songs just nailed me. It felt like my hometown, even though they were talking about the Midwest. They were talking about Belleville, Illinois. And I listened to that record all summer. I got into No Depression on March 16th as well, but Still Feel Gone, I was buying it for friends. There's no digital then, you gotta buy CDs. Just send it to my brother, and then he and I, it changed our relationship. It changed my relationship with my younger brother. My career has largely been in music, at least tied to music in some way. I graduated college, and I was either going to go for a PhD in sociology, which was my undergrad, and I was very, very passionate about, and actually found an area of studies that I could actually perform well in, or joining the music industry. And I didn't have the money to pay for a PhD, and I didn't want to take out all those loans. So my first job offer was at a music publishing clearinghouse in Manhattan, taking home $25,000 a year. That was my starting salary in New York City. Well, it's 1996, but still. And I have largely remained in music since. My job right now is in music. And I think a major reason why I got the job was my love of music. That goes a long way. If you find sort of areas of the industry that you like, which for me, it used to be partnerships, now it's user experience. So design, which when I got the new job that I've had for now 3 months, was consulting with them for a long time, but just started full time late last year. I've shared this with a bunch of people, but on my first day at this job, they're based in LA, and I went down to LA, which I do quite a bit now. And when I was being shown around the office, I got choked up because I remembered that kid. I guess he was a kid. He's 20 or 21, listening to Uncle Tupelo and thinking, this is changing my life. I need to work in music. Music's going to be everything in my life. I'm going to write about it, which I've done. I've interviewed some people that are so important to me. Josh Ritter, Brent Best. My dog Bennett is on the cover of Brent Best's solo record. Interviewed Scott Miller, Chip Robinson from the Backsliders. I managed a couple bands in New York, small acts, but it was such a rewarding experience. And my life revolves around music, and I can still visualize myself pulling out of that shopping center, that's what we called it, a shopping center, and hearing the first notes to Gun, and wow, I remember I wanted to call everyone. I was like, what is this? It's like Graham Parsons, but Mike Watt, and what? This was it, Ramsey Book and Records, summer of 1994. Got this. Obviously have 3 copies on vinyl now. Here's one. I have 4 actually, because I have the March 16th Still Feel Gone double album that was put out many years ago. I've met Jeff Tweedy a bunch. I've probably seen Wilco 60 times, Sunvolt / Jay Farrar or just them, 30 to 35 times. Obviously never saw Uncle Tupelo. I've been to Wilco's festival 3 times. Plan on going again next time. And it all goes back to that moment. I know I've said it 50 times, or 3 times now. When the spirit catches you, isn't that from a Sunvolt song? Something about the spirit catching you. I'll never forget that moment. I think I went to McDonald's because I was so excited. I was like, I need to eat. And like I went to McDonald's and then got back in my car, and I just drove around. It felt like for 3 months listening to Still Feel Gone. If I point to the records that have impacted my life the most, Born to Run as a kid, hearing those songs really brought music into me, and just settled. Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions, when I was 15. I'd never heard hip-hop, and that record just absolutely blew me away. Is it Paul Simon who said that's the greatest record of all time, or it's his favorite record of all time? Still listen to it regularly. Incredible record. Then Still Feel Gone in 1994, and probably Yankee Hotel Foxtrot in 2001. It came out in 2002, but the advances that came out in 2001, right after, or before, it was before 9/11. Those would be, if I'm looking at the last 20 years, Purple Mountains record, Southeastern by Jason Isbell. Earlier, Lucinda's Car Wheels on a Gravel Road would be up there. But Uncle Tupelo, Still Feel Gone, I would say, is, in terms of impacting my life, all my friends are into this, into these guys, or they were, or they've heard me talk about them nonstop. My friends, my relationships, my family, my career, what I do in my free time. Uncle Tupelo, Still Feel Gone. If I didn't hear this record, I don't know that any of this, maybe I'd be, I don't know, some other job. and some other passion. They'd probably be all baseballs, which I'm a huge baseball and basketball fan, but music is really the centerpiece of my life. And I can thank Jay Farrar, Jeff Tweedy, and Mike Hydorn from Uncle Tupelo. 1991 Still Feel Gone, a classic record, 5 stars, 10.0. Give it a listen. Thanks for stopping by, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.